Now I need to work on the plug in that coil pack, and then run that wire. So let's get started. Okay guys, got the plug, the adapter, and all this. So first thing I'm going to do is disconnect the PCV valve that's right here. This is just to get it out of the way because I need to get access to the plug right here. Okay. Unplug the coil pack. Alright. Plug in the wire harness adapter. Alright, plug in the adapter. Plug the coil pack back in. And there you go. Your E85 sensor now has power. Now it's not going to have the signal yet. I still need to run this wire back to the driver's side, passenger side, sorry. Plug it in. And there you go. That is your E85 adapter plugged in here, plugged in here. Then this little jumper harness goes to the coil pack. Now, what I need to do is get this wire. I'm going to run it the other way. I don't want it running between that. It's pretty dumb. So let's get this ran that way. Okay. Coil pack harness has seen a better day. Okay. Kind of bury it back here. Now let's plug that PCV valve back in. Okay, it's plugged in. And bury the adapter harness underneath the PCV valve, and it's totally hidden. You know what, guys? That's actually pretty cool. Hides the wiring. It almost makes it look factory. Now the white wiring, yes, that does stick out like a sore thumb. However, I need to figure out how I'm going to route it down. So my train of thought was to run it back behind the blower, down, kind of like this, almost, just inside the car, because the PCM is right there. So, and yes, it does stick out like a sore thumb, kind of like I just mentioned. I am going to wrap this in some wire loom. I'm gonna have to go buy some because the stuff I have is actually, it's pretty thick. Actually, what I have is this, and it's kind of ridiculous for one wire. Maybe, we'll see. But anyway, it's gonna run back behind the blower, down. I'm not sure if I'm gonna have to take the battery out or not. Haven't gotten that far. I hope I don't, because like I said in previous videos, especially when this thing died, it's just a total pain in the ass to get everything around. But I may have to get this wire fed down back to the PCM. And the only reason the fuse panel's off is because I had to run that jumper for the fuel pump, just to test the system out. So actually, you're not going to be doing any wiring with the fuse panel here. This pin has the PCM pin already on it. So what you do is we're going to take the PCM harness apart. There's like a retention plug that's holding, that's keeping a watertight seal. We take that plug out, pop this in, and I have a wiring diagram. I'll show that in a little bit of what we need to plug it in, and we'll plug it in, and the car will be E85 ready, but we're not going to be done yet because we have to get the car retuned, obviously, for E85. So let's put the fuse panel back on, get that wire ran, and we will be under the car with the wheel off and the car in the air, pinning that PCM. So let's get to that. Okay guys, you can see I kind of jumped ahead a little bit. The Corvette is up in the air. I took the wheel off. I took the outer splash guard off, this piece. This are just held on with some 7mm screws. I also had to take the front, like 4 or 5 screws out of the splitter right here, the side skirt. That's because the splash guard, I just showed you, that splash guard, and this trim piece right here are all connected to it. And then on the bottom of on the inner fender well of the trim piece, there's these 2 holes right here. Those had some just push tabs. You know, use your push tab removal tool. So those two holes had some push tabs in it. Just use your push tab removal tool. I'll have a link to this in the description below as well. You know, these are very helpful for taking cars apart. Those 2 on the bottom, there was a few screws for the 7mm like I was talking about, and then there was a random 10mm screw in the back holding this inner fender slash splash guard to the frame. So that was a little weird. So you need a 7 and 10mm, at least that's in my case, my car. So you get access to the PCM right here, and you will see that I have some surface rust on the frame. That is actually the bottom part of that battery explosion, leaking battery acid. That's what that's from. It's not rust from, you know, this being a northern car or something. That's from battery acid just leaking down and etching the frame. So I will clean that up at a later date. That's not the point of this video, so I will fix that, just not yet. So I did clean that off a little bit with some degreaser, and it should be ready to paint. I'll just clean it one more time. But anyway, that'll get paint with that truck bed liner. Sorry, that truck frame coating. So here's your PCM. Now, I need to read the instructions and give you guys accurate information for what harness has to come off, and then feed that white wire down through the frame and into here. I had to do a little bit of research, but I finally figured out what we need to do. The diagram even points that it's a gray connector. I am colorblind and didn't realize that the connectors on the ECM are gray, black, blue. I was Googling, like, you know, C6 Corvette PCM connector 3, because that's what this is technically called. And it even, the sheet of paper, I just reread it, said gray. But then I found a picture online of someone removing this ECM, and it had the picture of the blue, the black, and the gray. So we're going to want to disconnect the gray connector from the top. And to do this, we need to take out the safety lock. There you go. Alright, got that out. Alright, so push this tab in, pull the connector harness off, and I think this should come out. Okay, so we got it. Now what I'm going to have to do is take this assembly apart to get to the guts of the wire harness that's in here. So basically what we're going to do is run that wire, feed it through the line, come down through here, run it through this connector into this box, and then that box will plug into the PCM. And basically, so here's what I'm assuming. I'm assuming that there's the pin on the harness for the, pin in the ECM for the flex fuel sensor, but what I'm going to assume is the car is not wired for it. So that would make sense, because we're taking that wiring harness, adding it to the car, and going through this harness connector, and eventually plug it in, and we should be good to go. Okay guys, to get this apart, it's pretty simple. There's a zip tie holding the wires on. Cut that. That zip tie, see this like ridge, these two slots, basically the zip tie just went around and back, and I cut that. It gives me access to get to the wires and move them. I don't really need to move them, but you know, just I want full access here. Then to get this black cover off, I went from the front. I think it was the easiest part. There's two black tabs in these two holes right here. Let me get some better light on that. So there's two black tabs from that plastic black cover. Push in, lift up, and then out and pull it toward you. That, see, I didn't break these tabs on the back. I didn't break the tabs in the front, so we're good. Your next step is going to be to remove this green security tab through the harness. Oh, wow, okay. That actually came out pretty quick. Okay, pull that out. Don't throw it away. Still need it. And now, imagine this will somehow come apart. Okay, so I think I see what's going to happen. I see the gray plastic piece. I bet you that has to come off. Okay, guys. Here's where we get to the fun part. What we have to do is actually drill a hole through the connector. You need a 1/16 drill bit, and to remove the cavity plug, what you need to do is drill a hole just barely through the cavity if it's molded shut. And it is molded shut, because looking at here, see how these are, there's blank gray parts? That's what we're gonna have to drill through. And pin 4 is gonna be, so if your connector came off the car like this, all right, pull it toward you, keep the part that was facing the passenger side door facing down. You see number 1 right here. So you see number 1, the brown wire is 2, the orange and white wire is 3, 4 is the next one. So 1, 2, 3, 4 down from the top. If you hold the diagram the same way. Actually, you know what? This is actually from the bottom. Well, that's kind of interesting. Yeah, because you got the round holes and you got the 4th hole right here. So anyway, actually, if you flipped it this way, where's 1? 1 is this corner right here by my middle finger. So that's 1. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. So you could drill it from the top or the bottom. I think I'm gonna go from the bottom, go through it. Let's just double check. Yeah, 1. So 1's here, follow it up from the bottom. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I've got a 1/16 drill bit. There you go. So if you guys can see my drill bit, you got blank is 1, brown, orange, and white, and then you see my drill bit. Alright, pull it out. Go in from the top just to... Oh, hell, you don't need to. It's already... Okay. So, 1. Brown is 2. Orange and white is 3. 4 is our new hole. Now, let me get this wire ran through the car, and then we know where to push it through. Okay guys, I have the wire ran through the frame. I'm actually going to rerun this. It's not in a good location, but okay. Now, basically all we're going to do is push this wire into here. Okay guys, I finally got this back together. What I had to do was take the green pin out, push the white pin, like I showed earlier, drill the hole through slot number 4, push the pin all the way through. This took me a while. Like, I actually had to cut back some of the tape just to get extra wire length to be able to move some of the pins out of the way and push everything back. So you push the white pin through, and then you put the white, this outer case with the hook back on it, put that back on it, slide your green, lock it through. Oh, make sure you put the gasket in. There's an orange gasket inside here. Put the green lock, push that back through, and then we are going to put that black plastic case. It basically slides through the front. Well, actually do it from the back. Back first and then press down. Whoops. Okay, before you do that, make sure this stupid safety thing is looped through. Okay. Push the back down first. In the front, everything snaps in. And now, after we get the attachment back onto the PCM, you can slide the safety loop back on. So, pretty simple. Just snap everything back together. Just take your time when you take it apart. It's not overly complex. Don't jam it on here. Just push it on lightly. Okay, the black plastic cover is secure. Hold it. Lock it. Push the safety back in. And with everything snapped back in place, the white wire going through the pin, the 4th pin, like I showed, we are done with wiring up the flex fuel sensor. Now, the flex fuel sensor has power, but now it will receive signal from the PCM to the sensor to turn on. However, until I get the car tuned, this will not work. Like, yes, it'll have power from the PCM, it'll have power from the coil pack, but the sensor literally won't do anything. You have to unlock it in the PCM so that when your tuner plugs in the laptop to the OBD2 port, you have to go in through HP Tuners or whatever software they're using to go in and unlock the alcohol, or the E85 sensor. So overall, that's how you add a E85 sensor to a C6 Corvette, specifically the 2005. The 2006 and newer should be about the same. You might have some differences with the PCM and which connection you're gonna drill through, but it should be the same. I think the 06, the PCM literally might be vertical instead of sideways. Yeah, it might be vertical instead of horizontal. So that might be the only difference. So that's done. I obviously need to do some cleanup on the wiring, tuck it, and as you can see, I kind of just ran it behind the bumper, behind the blower. Let's walk on the other side. And you see it right here coming behind the supercharger, and it's tied into that harness that's kind of buried behind the PCV system. So, okay, that looks a little bit better. Afraid that PCV line was shut, so those pins shut the way it was. So that's kind of the gist of adding the flex fuel sensor to your car. Like I said, obviously you're gonna need to get tuned, but beyond that, I mean, it's not overly complex. Now, my car, I've got bigger injectors. I've got the 1000cc injectors, and I've got the Z06 pump. I'm also going to have to do a fuel pump upgrade because E85 takes 30% more fuel, and that's going to be another video, obviously. But part of this install was just getting the sensor. The next video will be the fuel pump and the plans I have for that, but we'll go into more detail about that in the future. So that's pretty much it for installing the flex fuel sensor on your C6 Corvette. Okay guys, I just wanted to follow up with the harness install for you. So as you can see, the harness coming up from the PCM, that is actually the white wire that's going over to the ethanol flex fuel sensor. So what I did was I went to O'Reilly's. They sell 1/4-inch wire loom. Might be able to find some on Amazon, so I'll put a link below for that. Anyway, I got 10 feet. I actually used like, probably 8 feet of it or so. Here's what's left. So 1, 2, 3. So I used about 7 feet of the wire harness loom because that goes from one side of the car all the way to the other, plus it goes back behind the motor. And you can also see that I cleaned up the frame and painted it. It's a satin black, like I said, and I know it kind of makes the rest of the frame look like crap, but you guys have to realize no one will ever see this because this is literally behind the splash guard. And the only part you might see is going to be like over here. So it looks a lot better than the rust. And that's that Duplicolor rust barrier prevention paint. I'll put a link to that below as well. So frame's cleaned up. The wire harness is going up through the engine bay, behind the battery. You can kind of see it. You can kind of see it right there. You see that like new harness kind of sitting on top of the old harness. Right underneath the air conditioning line. It's behind the blower, behind the motor, and then it comes up, this new wire right here, it comes up behind the blower and goes into the wire harness that's behind the PCV valve. There's that junction, and it comes into that. So, pretty simple to run. And I really didn't want it on top of the blower, like I wanted it behind there. And if I ever have to drop the motor, it's kind of ran the same way that the factory harness is. So I'll be able to disconnect it from the sensor and then leave it like back on the firewall, like zip tie it to the firewall. And if the motor ever has to drop down, it won't get caught on it. That's pretty much going to be it for the E85 flex fuel sensor. Fits pretty well. It looks stock. I mean, you might, someone sees a sensor, they're like, huh, that's not stock, but it doesn't stick out like a sore thumb, especially with that white wire being covered up with that 1/4-inch wire loom. That was probably the best thing that I could have done, just to protect the wire and to kind of bury it with the rest of the engine harnesses. So I hope you guys liked the video and found it educational and tells you how to install a flex fuel sensor on a C6 Corvette. So if you like it, give it a big thumbs up. If you haven't already subscribed, please do. Thanks and have a great day.